Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Carmen Bryant. Happy Saturday to each and every one of you. I missed you guys on Friday. Wasn't able to come on. I just wanted to come on really quick this Saturday. Hopefully you are enjoying yourself. Thank you to all the new subscribers for being here and joining me on overcoming narcissist abuse. And today I just wanted to come on really quick. And I've been getting emails and situations in reference to the parental alienation, what you should and should not do. And so I wanted to come from this perspective, understanding, and I'm going to do another video, but understanding that parental alienation is very similar to cult training, or you have a cult leader that is brainwashing members to get total control. And as you know, not all cults are religious cults, but cult leaders that brainwash members, isolate them so they can have total control. Well, that's similar to what a alienating parent is doing to a child. And you have to remember the different age ranges of a child. They're very vulnerable. They're very, they're easily manipulated. They're like a sponge. They absorb everything and then they kind of repeat. And, they love both of their parents. And most people assume, and as studies show that if a child is being abused by one of the parents, that the child wouldn't want to go. Well, that's not the case. For most children that are abused, sexually abused, physically abused, psychologically abused, they still love the parent. They're trauma bonded. So they don't want to leave the parent. They still want to be with the parent. Well, you have to understand that during the parental alienation phase, that narcissist, especially when you're dealing with a narcissistic parent, that narcissistic parent is strategically reprogramming that child, and the goal is to hurt you the deepest way they can possibly hurt you. And that's what, taking away the thing that you love the most, and that's your child. It was already a pseudo relationship. It wasn't real. Some of you have lost property, you've lost money, you've lost your reputation, your beauty, your health. The last thing that you can imagine, the straw that broke the camel's back, or the heart that plunged into, the knife that plunged into the heart, is to take the child away from you. And most of you are thinking, what have I done? Why are you so evil? Why would you do this? Because that is a maximum amount of reaction they can get from you. Well, if you're at the age of what you are, and you remember the love bombing, you remember the trauma bonding, you remember the gaslighting and how bad the gaslighting was. Anything that was positive about you, they switched it around and made it negative. Everything that they said that they loved, they idealized you, and everything that they loved about you is turned around, and everything, just as passionate as they were about the idealization stage and all the wonderful things about you, is just as hateful and as rageful as they are at taking those same attributes and values about you and making them the most horrible thing about you. And in your mind, you're confused. You've been gaslighted. You've been made to sound crazy. Everything that was right, they made wrong. What was right is wrong, and what's wrong is right, and you're confused because they get away with it, So imagine if you're at that level of torment, being in a relationship with a narcissist as an adult. Imagine the torment that a child that loves this individual is going through in their young mind, because a narcissist does the exact same thing to a child, especially when they are practicing or working toward totally alienating them from you. They make them feel like they're wrong for loving the alienated parent. They feel made to feel obligated to keeping secrets. And this is how a lot of children are also sexually molested or violated, because they are made to feel that you should not tell secrets or tell what is going on. They're made to feel bad. Instead of addressing like negative behaviors, you never address a child and tell them that they're bad. Children are not bad. Their behaviors are unacceptable. But a child, when you tell a child that they're bad, they grow up thinking that there's something's wrong with them. And a lot of times the narcissist doesn't address the behavior. They address the child itself, the child themselves, meaning that if they come back to talk to you about certain things, they're made, when the narcissist finds out, they're made to feel and devalued. You're untrustworthy. You don't deserve it. Everything that child does has to earn that narcissist love. And then think about it for a minute. A lot of you, when you were love bombed, you were given money, you were taking places, you were, whatever it was that they fed you to cause you to be, addicted to them. Imagine a child being strung out on drugs at a very young age, at a developmental age, when their brain is still developing, while they're still discovering the world, while they're still learning relationships and bond. They're discovering themselves. They're discovering, who they are, or, and a lot of times they don't determine who they are until they get older. But this is during these developmental stages. Imagine a child getting addicted to drugs at a very young age. I've even listened to some interviews where there was this guy said that he began smoking, or he began drugs at the age of 8, and had been addicted to drugs since the age of 8 years old. So imagine the narcissist being a drug to a young child during the developmental stages, where everything that they're learning from their caregivers is wrong. Everything that they're from a narcissistic caregiver, is wrong. And so they're taught, not to trust. They're taught that love is associated with pain. And so, here you have this narcissist that is not addressing behavior, but is addressing them as a person in order to get their total commitment or their total loyalty, even to a point where every time they come back. Now, some of you guys are the visiting parent, meaning that the child comes to visit you, and some of you guys are actually the parent that has the custody of the child, male and female alike, that has to send the child. And every time the child comes back to you, you'll notice they're either harder, they're angry, but they begin to treat you what you see, the symptoms that you see, and how they're conducting themselves is based on, a lot of them, have cognitive dissonance anyway, because they don't know whether to love you or not. And if they love you or hug you or show you affection or pleasure, or they laugh with you, they feel obligated not to do it because of that parent. Now, for that narcissist, a lot of times you can't pinpoint exactly what is being said and how it's being said, because how it's being done is very manipulative, where, remember, most of the stuff that you and the narcissist went through, you couldn't put your finger on it because, well, that's not what I meant, or you're taking this too serious, and this is what I said, and this is what I meant. Well, a child is confused too, and they're small. When I say small, they're young. So they don't understand what's going on. So to enjoy being in your company, or feel the relief of being in your company, they feel like they are stabbing the other one in the back. And so, anytime they come, or they're not allowed to talk about you in the home, where the narcissist is, they're not allowed to talk about you. They're not allowed to talk about anything positive or share anything in that home. You become that parent. They're not allowed to discuss you. They're not allowed to talk about you, or they're going to get in trouble. They may say things, and I was listening to another video. I have to go find it again to share it with you guys. But one of the gentlemen on there said, one of the specialist experts said that, what they'll do is they'll let you know, I never talk about you to my child. I never say anything negative to my child. But what they'll do is they have a whole conversation with the new supply, or whoever they're talking to, whether it's family or friends. They have a whole conversation about you in earshot range of the child, and everything that they do it on purpose so that child can hear everything negative about you. Well, that's how he is, or that's how she is, and that's her behavior, and I'm starting to notice that in her, and I'm concerned about him, or and so you'll also notice that they'll make up situations to make it seem like you are a very bad person. Are you okay? Everything all right? You sound sad, and I said this in another video, or, everything becomes something serious. So the child begins to think, oh, it must be something serious. So they're training this child. Now, this is what I wanted to tell you guys. When I was a family preservation service provider, and I used to work with the I didn't work with the Department of Social Health Services. They contracted with a private practice that I used to work in. So I was one of the FPS providers, family preservation service providers. And I used to assist families who have had their children taken out of the home because of neglect, abandonment, or abuse, that needed assistance with either couples counseling to get to take care of domestic violence, drug and alcohol, any kind of recommendations I would make concerning the parents. And then I would also be brought to the home either when the children were being brought back in, or to prevent the children from being taken out of the home. And so I would have to teach them parenting skills. And those of you that know anything about state of Washington, I'm not sure about the other states or countries, especially when a child is in the Child Protective Services program, DSHS program, you can't tell them to spank their child. And so I had to take training. I took some training on my own, it's called 1-2-3 Magic. You guys can look it up, 1-2-3 Magic, which is a behavior modification program that I would teach the parents on how to modify negative behaviors in children with behavioral problems. And you guys know that when you're dealing with a child that's dealing with a narcissistic parents, they're going to have some behavior problems. And behavioral problems are symptoms of a deeper problem. And the deeper problem is that the child is being abused by the narcissistic parent. Now, not all narcissists are sexually abusive. However, psychologically abusive, especially if they're trying to pay you back for discarding them, or they, whatever the case may be. They do become psychologically abusive or neglectful or, whatever, but it's like you can't pinpoint it. You can't file a report. You can't, because it's not obvious enough for you to put your finger on it. But if you guys go and look at a lot of parental alienations by experts, like in Canada, especially like, I think her name is, oh gosh, I'll post it. I can't think of her name right now. But look for Joe Goldberg, and he has experts talking about, he's in Canada, and he has experts, and there's a leading expert by her name. I cannot think of her name. She's a leading expert in Canada, and she also comes to the United States to teach about parental alienation and talks about the symptoms of parental alienations, and you'll see those symptoms in your child. And so one of the things that I used to have to teach parents, behavior modification, but one of the biggest things was the behavior modification for the parent first. So I would have to teach the parent first and then put them together with the child to teach them behavior modification with the child. You have to remember that in the developmental stages, and I said this in another video, the child looks like a narcissist. So you would assume that the child is a narcissist, and they're not, or have narcissistic personality disorder, and they're not. That's a normal part of the developmental stages. And so in the normal part of the developmental stages, a child always wants dominance. They always want to be the boss. You're not the boss of me. They want to be the boss. They want to do what they want to do. They're going to challenge boundaries. They're going to challenge your authority. That's what they do. And so a lot of times what happens is when you're dealing with, you've discarded or you have been discarded by a narcissist and you have children, you become very anxious. You become very fearful of losing your child. And so you change your boundaries and you change rules and your authority within your own home. And so the one thing that you have to remember is that the narcissist knows you, and they know that if they put enough pressure on you through your child, because they work vicariously through the kid is the pawn on the chessboard. The goal is to get the bishop. Is it the bishop? No, the queen. And whoever, male, female. But the goal is to get the head, the person, you, whether it's former wife, husband, whatever. But the goal is you. You are the person that they are going after to take down vicariously through your child. The child becomes a pawn in the game, and the child becomes emotionally damaged because the narcissist is after you. What is it called? The booty or the trophy is the child. The show that they won the fight. And so the one thing that you have to remember is that they know how you're going to react, because everything that was good, they flipped it around. So that's the same thing they're doing with the child. So the one thing you cannot do is move your boundaries because you're guilt parenting. You can't guilt parent because every time the child comes back, well, I don't want my child not to love me. And if I enforce these rules and these boundaries, they're not going to love me and they're going to love the other parent. No, you have to also remember that, and I can't think of the guy's name, and he said it, I just watched him today. He says, right now it seems like they're winning is the battle in the war, that they're winning the battle, but overall in the end you'll win the war. And the reason why is because you have to maintain boundaries. You have to remember that you're raising your children to be in society. And if you know that the narcissist has a disregard for rules, regulation, laws, they don't like to be told what to do. A lot of them do get in trouble out in society. That's what makes it narcissistic personality disorder. It gives them problems within society. They don't like to be told what to do. They don't like rules. They don't like boundaries. Your boundaries is offensive. Anybody's boundaries boundaries is offensive to them. And so you can't allow this narcissist either to raise up another narcissist or raise up a child that has no sense of rules and boundaries, because when they grow up and go into society, society is harsh. The real world is harsh. And for a lot of you who are of the minority, and you guys know what I'm talking about, the minority, you have to raise our sons and daughters up to respect the law. Even if the law doesn't respect you, you still have to teach them to respect the law. And that starts from at home. And that's across the board, any culture, but in our homes, you're teaching these children by you being the authoritative figure. You're making sure, regardless of what is going on in that home with the narcissist, that you maintain your boundaries, because they're going to push boundaries with you. And that's a reflection of what the narcissist is teaching them to come up against you. But you have to make sure there are consequences to negative behaviors, but you also reward them for positive behaviors. And so if a child, you have to maintain, there's a certain bedtime for a certain age. You already know that's why it's called co-parenting versus counter-parenting. They're going to counter-parent you because they have to make themselves look like the fun, good parent. And a lot of you guys, and this is, those of you that have to pay a large amount of child support, where you don't have, when it's your turn for the visitation, you really don't have a lot of money to do things with your children. You have to remember, it's not the stuff that you buy them, it's the quality time that you spend. You talk to them, you spend time, you invest in them regardless. And the fact that you maintain your boundaries and make sure that there are consequences to their actions. You don't give them everything that they ask for. You make them do chores, age-appropriate chores, and you reward them for the age-appropriate chores, showing that when you work for something, you get something in the end. You make sure that when there's negative behavior, that negative behavior is addressed. You got to remember, and some of you, this is the time of electronics and social media, and the thing that hurts most kids the most, you take away some of their electronics or social media, that's going to hurt them the most. But you have to make sure that there's a balance. You're not going to stay on phone all day long, all night long. You're not, you have chores. You make sure, and if you don't do it, then these are the consequences. You put this up, but when they come, a lot of you get fearful, so you guilt parent. So you take away those boundaries. Well, I don't want them to be mad. Or a lot of times you'll also find that child, and this is something they do whether they have a narcissistic parent or not. You don't love me anyway, and I hate being here. And this is what you have to be prepared for when you maintain your boundaries. The way that they will hurt you is by saying, that's why I want to be at mom's house anyway. That's why I much rather be at dad's house. I'm just going to move in with when I get old enough, I'm going to move. And that's why they said that I can come and live with them, because you're a mean parent, and you still don't let. Remember, if you're working with a narcissist, you still can't have reactions, and they're messing with your emotions to get you to react. Well, they're training the child to do the same thing. And on top of that, if you don't have a narcissistic parent, children just do that anyway. And a lot of times you'll lose control, because as they get older, it will get worse. That's just like a child that has a temper tantrum when you go into the store. You know what we tell them? Don't touch nothing. Don't ask for nothing. If you do, look at here, and what do? They do it. I want this. I want that. And what do? They have a temper tantrum. And what do? You feed negative behavior. You reward negative behavior by saying, just give him the candy. Just give it to him so he'll stop or she'll stop. But you're rewarding negative behavior. You don't reward negative behavior. You reward positive behavior. That's reinforcing positive behavior, and you're reinforcing negative behavior by making sure that there's a negative consequence that goes with that. You lose these privileges. And so when even if you have a short period of time with your child, some of you don't have the finances, and especially those of you that are single parents that don't have a double income, you just don't have the money to spend. And you have to remember that the narcissist knows this, so they'll do everything they possibly can to entice the child. What do? Buy them electronics, let them stay up all night, let them go wherever they want to go, put no boundaries on. Now, remember, they trauma bond too. So don't think that they trauma bond as well, and they attack their character, they attack who they are, they make them feel less than, and then they turn around and they may expose them to things that you can't afford. And they're going to make sure to do that, always going out to eat, always going to a theme park, always doing this, always buying the latest shoes, the latest clothes, the name brand clothes, the most expensive electronics, the this and that and this, and then when you take it away from them, say, okay, this is unacceptable, what they'll do behind your back back, because there is no co-parenting. What they do behind their back is the opposite of what you're doing, so that you look like the bad person. You look like the bad parent. But you have to maintain boundaries in your home. You have to make sure that you are the boss in your house. There's nothing wrong with you, when they have negative behavior. You don't feed into that negative behavior. Stop arguing with them. And that's what I teach when I do the 1, 2, 3 magic is, why are you arguing with a child? Once you've established a rule, you do not do this. If you do this, this is the consequence. You have to make sure that you follow through with the consequence and don't negotiate. Why are you negotiating with a child? There's a difference between, we can talk about, even in the military. When I had soldiers, the rule was this: do what I'm telling you to do, because I have to do it too. So I don't do as I say and not as I do, because I'll go doing the same thing that you do. You ask me questions after you do it, and then I'll tell you why. Because sometimes you don't understand why we're having to do what we do, because the commander, the first sergeant, said ... But I don't have time. I'm not going to explain myself. This is what we need to do, and this is what we need to get done. You come and ask me questions afterward, or there are consequences to your actions. Now, once the task is done, come and talk to me, and then I'll explain to you. But don't question me while I'm telling you what to do, because you may not understand. Or, no, I want to do it this way. No, I need you to do it this way, because I'm the leader. I need you to do it this way, because I understand what we're trying to do, and then I'll explain it to you after you do it. Well, with a child, that doesn't mean that you take away their right to express themselves. That's another thing, because the narcissist is a controller. So nothing that they say, however they express themselves, nothing, unless they are in tune with that narcissist, everything is wrong. Give your child an opportunity to talk. When your child starts talking, you turn off your electronics. You pause your television. You turn down the radio and give them your undivided attention. Remember, that's what the narcissist used to do to you. They didn't give you attention. They weren't really listening to you. But you knew. A child knows when a parent is not really listening to them. And that's usually how a narcissist is. They appear to be paying attention. They do it every now and then. But a child knows when you're really not paying attention to them. So you have to do the opposite of what they're doing. But that doesn't mean to change your boundaries. That doesn't mean to change who you are. That doesn't mean you come home in my house and you do whatever you want to do. No, there are consequences to your action. Now, for some of you, the children may become violent, or the child may, God forbid, put their hands on you, whatever. You have to do what you have to do. And, it's hard to be a parent, and it's hard to be a parent when you have a narcissistic parent on the other end. But parents, you love your kids, you do the fight. There's a price that we pay to be good parents. And the price that we pay is not always, just like in the military, war is ugly. War is going to cause some death, some bleeding, some pain, some hurt, emotional pain. Don't you break down in front of the child. If you need to cry, you get into a private place, whatever your source of strength is spiritually, you go in private and you cry, you pray, you meditate, whatever you do, you do that. But don't you break down your emotions in front of that child, because that's just like dealing with a narcissist. That doesn't mean they are narcissists, but you got to remember they're being trained by a narcissist, and you have to maintain your stability and you have to maintain your emotions. Have you ever been around someone that has ADHD or is just totally nervous all the time when they're talking, and just like, oh my gosh, calm down. Oh my gosh, you have so much energy. You just go sit down. You got too much energy. Or people that have ADHD that talk, or people that have like bipolar disorder and they're in that manic or hypomanic episode, and you're like, oh my gosh. And if they talk too much, you're like, oh my gosh, I wish this person would just shut up. Well, if you can feel that anxiety, if you can feel that, then what makes you think that a child can't feel that with you? You can't be an anxious parent. You have to calm down regardless of how much it hurts. You calm down and maintain. And after a while, when your child comes back to you, after a while, you'll notice things leveling back out. And those of you that are the person that they visit, every time they come, you maintain. That's why a lot of kids go into gangs and organized crime, because there is, regardless whether, and I said this in another video as well, regardless of what you see, they may, look chaotic. They may cause chaos and confusion, but it's very organized confusion. There's hierarchy. A lot of them go into gangs because they're structured. There's hierarchy, and there are consequences for disloyalty and disrespect. Well, that's the same thing you need to implement in your home. And I don't mean to be abusive. What I mean is you maintain, I don't care what that narcissist does, you maintain your routine no matter how much it hurts. You continue to do, and sometimes you may have to gray rock your kid, show no emotion. This is what I said. They're going to say things on purpose to try to hurt you and to move you emotionally and cause you to cry because they're being taught to do that. That's what's happening to them. So you maintain, okay, whatever your opinion is, but this is what's going to happen while you're here. You see what I mean? You have to have authority. When you were with a narcissist, that's how they handled you. So you maintain your authority. That's your child. You are responsible for that kid. And you are responsible, you're dealing with parental alienation. So you got to maintain your authority. You have to maintain boundaries, and you have to maintain some type of stability in the home. Hopefully this has helped you guys. It was a little long. I apologize. But hopefully this has helped you guys a little bit, dealing with what to do and what not to do when you're dealing with when you suspect parental alienation. One thing that I do emphasize over and over again, for those of you that might be experiencing parental alienation, go find you a reunification counselor, a counselor that understands parental alienation. Look for lawyers that understand parental alienation and domestic violence. Look for that, domestic violence and parental alienation, because, parental alienation is not just a cluster B personality disorder problem. Sometimes this is going on with people that don't have personality disorders, but find a lawyer, find a counselor that understands parental alienation, that understands domestic violence, and ask for, if they understand, emotional abuse for children, a child specialist to deal with your child. I'm emphasized over and over again, counseling. Okay. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful Saturday. Look at the links below on YouTube. You will find that I am now officially on iHeartRadio. I am on Podbean. I am on, where else am I on? Let me see, iTunes, Podbean, iHeartRadio. I'm on Google Music Play. I'm on Google Music Play. I'm also on, I think I posted everywhere. I'm somewhere else. So you guys, Spotify. So the one more we're waiting for is Pandora. So you guys can find me on Overcoming Narcissist Abuse. You put it in there, my picture that I normally have will pop up. Subscribe to the channel or wherever you guys are registered to, and subscribe. And then you guys just wait whenever I upload. It's just a little time consuming to do it. And some of you guys were saying that the music that's in the background kind of interferes with you being able to pay attention. I'll try to turn the music down a little bit because there's an echo, and I'm not in as you see, my environment is kind of wide open. So there's an echo because there's nothing, I don't have a booth to be in. And so there's only so much that I can put on the microphone to keep the echo at a minimum. So I try to put a little music in the background, but if that is too loud, then I'll turn it down a little bit to see how it works. And you guys give me some feedback. And when you guys give me feedback, you guys be courteous. Don't try to bust me out on a social forum because I'm going to pay no attention to you, because then I know that you're trying to get the attention. All you have to do is email me, because some of you guys are techies. And so I do value, a lot of you guys have given me more information. And so I've learned from you guys. To be honest with you, I've learned from you guys when you guys email me. When you email me, you give me some information on how to do something. I usually follow your instructions and it works. But if you do it on social media, then I know you're just trying to get attention. And I pay no attention to you. So I don't even follow your guidance. So you guys be courteous, be nice. And so also look underneath is betterhelp.com/Dr. Carmen. You can find counselors, licensed counselors that will do counseling via telephone, Skype, FaceTime, and they're licensed counselors. Look for those that specialize in domestic violence, that understands maybe parental alienation on your behalf, that understands, post-traumatic stress, that understands trauma. Look for those, ask those questions. I think the first week is free. And then if if you're limited at finances, they'll give you a discounted price as well. But that is a paid sponsor for me. But please go check it out. See how you like it. See what you think. A lot of you guys have given me some really good reviews because some of you guys are not able to go out to counselors. You kind of limited at transportation, and you guys also were saying that you can't really find what you're looking for in your area. So try betterhelp.com/Dr. Carmen and then register for the site and see, what you can find that will suit you. But get counseling, and those of you that are asking to donate, if you look at my, I think it's my PayPal and Cash App is right underneath the video. Thank you guys for joining. Please subscribe. I'm Dr. Carmen Bryant, Overcoming Narcissist Abuse. Make sure you check out my mentor's YouTube channel. It is Helen Sadler, Destiny Helper, and she brings to you information concerning narcissist abuse from a biblical and spiritual perspective. And also I have a Facebook page, which is Psychological Health Consultants and Services. That is my professional Facebook page. And so a lot of times when I do certain type of speaking engagements, other places, I may not post it on the professional one. But if you go to the one that I have for my book, it's Overcoming Narcissist Abuse. It has my book up at the top. Sometimes I add the extra speaking engagements on there so you can see those. And then, my book, you can go to Barnes & Noble, or you can go to Amazon. You can get the ebook, or you can get Kindle, or you can get the book. And it is Unmasking the Illusion of Perfection. A lot of you guys have been purchasing it. You guys like it. It is a Christian book. It provides you with Christian encouragement. And those of you that are not believers or not Christians, some of you have purchased and said you still got the principles out of it and you found your own story, because that book is about real stories and real experiences. And so a lot of you did say that though you're not a believer and you don't believe in the Bible, you got the principle and you found yourself in the book, and it was an encouraging book. Give it to your teenagers, because some of your teenagers are going through it and they don't know what they're going through, the young adults. And so thank you guys. I am so honored that you guys support me and support the book. Thank you guys so much. I love you guys. I miss you guys Friday. I'll be back tomorrow live, Sunday, which is between 8 and 9 Pacific Standard Time, which is West Coast time in the United States. And then just stay tuned, because usually I come Tuesday through Friday. Sometimes it has to be Wednesday through Friday, depending on how hectic my schedule is. And I post videos, so you guys stay tuned. You guys have an awesome rest of your day. Have an awesome weekend, and you guys go be great. Talk to you guys tomorrow.